While making How to deadmau5, I did a lot of research into Joel's backstory. Not only has he had a really long career in music, but he was making and working with music long before he ever really broke through. So here it is, top 10 deadmau5 facts that I bet you didn't even know. Joel Thomas Zimmerman was born in Niagara Falls, Canada, and would live and grow up there for most of his early life. After his uncle gave his family a computer, Joel was blown away with it and programs such as CorelDRAW. However, it wouldn't be until attending his first rave that Joel would want to use a computer to make music. One of the first programs Joel started making music on was Impulse Tracker, made for MS-DOS. Music trackers were kind of like the early versions of DAWs. You chose the instruments and wrote down the notes in a top-to-bottom type fashion. Impulse Tracker allowed you to import samples so that you could import single waves and create chiptune music. Or more longer samples and create whatever. Later, Joel would find himself involved in the demo scene, a computer subculture dedicated to the craft of creating audio-visual demos, often showcasing their skills in programming, animation, but also music. The demo scene evolved from cracked video games having their own custom intros, similar to graffiti artists having their own tags. These intros were known as cracktros. Crackers would compete in making the best cracktros, and thus the demo scene was born. The music from these cracktros and demos were often chiptune-esque or really techie sounding. Often people in the demo scene would form groups called, wait for it, demo groups, usually consisting out of a programmer, a graphic designer, and a music composer. Joel would later pay homage to his demo scene days in his 2009 track FML, the opening track to For Lack of a Better Name. And here's the 2003 Protozoa demo from demo group Coolers. The origin of the mouse head was a long time coming. You can see a very draft version on an early vinyl print of his single I Don't Want No Other / Suck This. Which was made around the year 2000 under the name Dread and Karma, which was a duo between Joel and Derek Caesar. I believe the Karma part of Dread and Karma refers to Karma K, which was Joel's solo artist name at the time, like on the Egg People remix. The mouse head would get reformed over the years into the more snazzier angled mouse head like on Get Scrapped, deadmau5's first official album. But it was also, and this is fact 3, because bam, I'm just slipping that in there, but it was also used for his freelance website building business as part of the branding. Yes, he did freelance web design, and one of his clients was even Bob Marley. He showed some of his stuff on the stream, and it's very flash-based. But back to the mouse head. The idea to actually make it a reality and wear it live while performing came from when Joel photoshopped the picture of the mouse head onto Jay Gordon's head. Jay Gordon being the frontman and founder of the industrial rock band Orgy. I'm going to guess that their friendship probably came through Joel's longtime friend, Tommy Lee. Jay told him he should actually wear a mouse head if he was ever going to play live. And well, a few years later, Joel made his performance with his soon-to-be iconic mouse head in Halifax, January 2008. Also, look how creepy the vinyl for strobe is. So how the hell did deadmau5 become great friends with Tommy Lee, founder and drummer of Motley Crue? They would seem like two people who would never have anything to do with each other. And I'm not even talking about like now, but back in 2006 or 7, they were already great buddies and hanging out.
Hey! Only one guy showed up! Yeah!
The alleged story is that Joel worked on a Methods of Mayhem album back in 1999, Methods of Mayhem being Tommy Lee's rap rock band, and they were looking to splice things up with some electronics on their album. This story has been reported by CBC, WME Entertainment, this YouTube channel, and it's not even that crazy of a theory considering that the type of breakbeat productions wasn't unfamiliar territory for Joel, and it would explain how Joel and Tommy became friends. Here's some backstory. In an article from Toronto Life, it mentions that a young Joel tracked down and contacted 9 Inch Nails to ask about how some of the sounds from the album were made, and actually got an answer from Trent himself. It was my assumption that Trent then passed him on to a person who had left his internship at Avid, the company behind Pro Tools, to come work at 9 Inch Nails' studio in New Orleans. That person being Steve Duda. Steve had initially been tasked with backing up data and other stuff, and upon arrival, almost got himself out of a job because he taught them how to automate the whole process. After the album is finished, Steve goes back to work in LA. I figured if this whole Methods of Mayhem story was going to be true, then the connecting piece would be Steve Duda, as he could have been the mix engineer and talk to the band who were looking for this new sound and be like, hey, I know a guy. And lo and behold, Steve Duda is on the credits for this album. So it all adds up, right? Wrong. After getting in touch with Steve Duda, he told me that this story isn't true. Steve did work on the Methods of Mayhem album. He had met Tommy while working with 9 Inch Nails, but also confirmed that Joel never did work on this album. Steve would meet Joel online shortly after for the first time while beta testing FL Studio. Joel at the time was making music under the name Halcyon 441. It's later in their friendship that Steve would introduce Joel to Tommy. Steve, together with Joel, would go on to make This Is the Hook under the name BSOD, a track that was made as a joke but ended up topping the Beatport charts. It's from that point that Joel would focus more on electro house and house music in general, and then forming a supergroup consisting of Steve, Joel, Tommy, and DJ Arrow called WTF. Later, Steve would create the centerpiece plugin of any modern day producer, Delta Modulator. And Serum and OTT and LFO Tool. Still, pretty weird how Joel got in touch with 9 Inch Nails around the time Steve was working there. Kinda weird. Fun fact number 5, and this one really is fun I find. Joel worked for ImageLine, the company that makes FL Studio. I already mentioned that Joel did some early beta testing for FL Studio, but during these years where he was active, he worked on multiple plugins that we all know and love, like Fruity Squeeze. And Fruity Squeeze is the only plugin left that really has the credits for Joel's name left. But he did work on many more plugins, such as FPC, the old Direct Wave, Decadence, and even the classic old Blue Citrus. He helped design that. He even did like a little interview for the FL Studios artist page. It was also around the time of his first official deadmau5 release, which is The Hive, a little trancey tune that was released as part of a Smirnoff Ice promotional campaign. There's also a few FL Studio project files you can find of Joel's. For instance, if you go to the demo tracks and the legacy folder, you'll find the Dream Electro mix of another demo song called That's True, and Joel's version being renamed to That's Not True. Ha, because he's Joel, that's what he does. Additionally, another project file was shared as part of that FL Studio interview, so here's what it sounds like. I don't think it's cool as the Dream Electro mix, but it's cool to hear nonetheless. Number 6. deadmau5 has made a few cameo appearances, such as on Gossip Girl. Apparently, that scene took 14 hours to record. And CSI in 2010. Seven. deadmau5 is no stranger to beef. The list includes Roscoe, Porter Robinson, Justin Bieber, Skrillex, Tiesto, Marshmello, Madonna, Kanye West, Suicide Boys, Gorilla. But one in particular stands out. That would be the dispute with Orlando Vaughan. This must have started back in 2010, or maybe even late 2009. This was when Joel decided to remix a classic old house track from the 90s. The track was called Paco de Bango's World, which features a charismatic Paco de Bango looking for a hard-hitting house beat. Well, that's a hard-hitting house beat. That's alliteration word. Okay.
You want something to bang your head on? Yes! Oh, you mean probably something like this.
Joel gives it the deadmau5 treatment, which we still haven't managed to figure out how he actually does that. We have. Oh, okay then. Well, okay. Anyways, he turns it into this.
Yes! You want something very loud? Yes! You want something to bang your head on? Yes! Oh, you mean probably something like this.
Bangin'. It's basically an entirely new track, just with the original vocal sample worked in there between the drops. Joel plays it out live and he wants to release it. It may have even become a future track on an album. So he sends the proper paperwork to Orlando Vaughan, offering him 50%. And instead, Orlando says no, he wants more. And it's not just a little more, but Joel says it's a ridiculous amount more. And Joel's like, I'm deadmau5. I don't need to accept this percentage. Which is fair considering it was a relatively dead track that he could have breathed extra life into. They don't come to agreement and don't end the discussion on best of terms either, so Joel decides just to remove the original sample and release the track on his next album. This makes Orlando mad and releases epic comeback diss track called Work That deadmau5.
I think the house music still is a little bit boring, playboy. I'm telling you. Big giant mouse head. He looks retarded. Cheesy. That's what it is. Cheesy.
Work that will sell out. Work that will sell out. Work that will sell out. Work that deadmau5.
And in case you haven't caught on yet, the title of the deadmau5 track is called A City in Florida. And well, Orlando is a city in Florida. Oh.
Got him.
Here's a bold claim. Joel is basically responsible for the rise of Skrillex and dubstep in the mainstream. It all dates back to 2010 when Joel's introduced by Tommy Lee to a shy Sonny Moore. Sonny hands him a USB with the whole completed Nice Sprites and Scary Monsters EP on it. Sonny had already been trying to get it released, very much like his last EP, My Name is Skrillex, which due to not being able to get signed, became a free release on MySpace. His previous label, from when he was back with From First to Last, didn't want anything to do with it, and that may have been the same situation with this new EP. And boy, did they mess up on that one. Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites is released on Joel's label, Mousetrap, and is an instant smash hit, with all 8 tracks from the EP topping the Beatport charts. deadmau5 also went on tour with him, exposing his music to even more people. Now, I'm not saying Skrillex invented dubstep or even brostep, but I will argue that Skrillex was, and maybe still is, the figurehead of dubstep, one of the biggest names into bringing dubstep to mass popularity. The man's name is synonymous with the word dubstep. He won awards for those tracks. Maybe without deadmau5 releasing Scary Monsters, Skrillex never would have been as big, and dubstep might have never become as popular as it did. Or maybe it would have, maybe he would have found another label and it would have been the same. We don't know, so we can't really say for sure. deadmau5 would also go on to make his dubstep track, Raise Your Weapons,
Does it feel now to watch it burn, burn, burn?
Kickstarting Skrillex's career would basically come back and bite Joel in the ass when Skrillex revitalized Justin Bieber's career on Where Are You Now and his album or EP that followed thereafter. And those people have never been on the best of terms. Fun fact 9. In 2011, deadmau5 held a competition to design and create a deadmau5 helmet. The winner would get flown out to meet Joel and watch him perform with the helmet that they designed. Lance Thackeray won the competition with his clever cheesehead design. Lance probably also meets Steve Duder, as he would later go on to create some custom skins for Silence One and Ableton, and would later design the skin to Serum. In a video showing the design evolution for Serum, which you can find on Lance Thackeray's YouTube channel, I'll put the link to that in the description, you can see some of the alternative names for Serum, such as Retina and The Steve. And finally, super fun fact number 10, how Joel got the name deadmau5. We all know the story by now, but let's hear it one more time from the man himself.
Tell me, where did your name come from? Like, where did deadmau5 come from?
Number one question.
That name derived from, it was just this long ass incident with a mouse.
We had a bit of a mouse problem, and
A mouse crawled in the back of the little PC fan of my computer and died inside the computer, and it stunk up the place, and
we couldn't figure out what the smell was until I had to change my video card about like 3 weeks later. So,
and I went on a chat room and I was talking about it. They said, oh, they started calling me that deadmau5 guy. Oh, here comes that deadmau5 guy.
And then I named myself deadmau5 on an internet chat room, just kind of as a joke.
But it wouldn't fit because it was like one character too long.
And DEADMOUSE is 9, so I had to trim it off a character and then add the 5 for an S.
And so I just changed my name to that, and then that was even like long before the music, because I was doing like multimedia design, web design.
That was my trademark of my work, was this little mouse head thing. And then when I started to do music, it just said, well, I might as well just use this shit. And then it just stuck.
Thanks for watching. I'm working on more how-tos and music production content, so stick around for that. Thank you for watching, and if you're a Patreon, you get a double thank you, because I love you. See you soon.